I am back again. Enjoy the uploading spree while it lasts, because before you know it, I'll disappear for months again. I'll try not to, I will try. I'm making the most of being in an environment that is somewhat quiet. While I know I have it, please ignore the flickering. I have a candle going over there. I'm trying to take advantage of being in a more controlled environment, one that I know to manage before I move back out to university and back in with a bunch of strangers. But we'll see, hopefully we'll get lucky. Anyways, so for today's video, it's something I used to do a lot, but I have not done at all this year, which is my bookish videos. So I'm doing a simple one, which I thought would be a good place to start. I want to do a top ones for 2025, but I don't know if it's too late, but I'm tempted to just be like, screw it, this is my channel. If I say it's not too late, I say it's not too late. So I might do, we'll see. I might combine 2025 and 2026 at the end of the year. We'll see, that might be, sorry, my dad, I don't know if that the camera picked that up, I hope not. My dad, like all men, sneezes stupidly loudly, God knows why, but that's just what they do. Also, can we appreciate my water bottle? It's so cute and I love it so much. He's still going, I don't know how, that's insane. Anyways, so I've split it into 2 stacks and a little thing of 2 because it's currently resting on my bed. So we have stack number 1, the beginning of the year, stack number 2, that's the middle, and we have what I'm currently reading and my most recent. So let's begin with number 1. This is something, to be honest, I've not read everything in here, but it's something I've read most of and I've sort of picked up and down, like you do with most poetry collections. This is William Wordsworth's, that's a tongue twister. This is a collection of his poems. I found myself needing to read a lot more poetry this year, especially because second semester of my course, because I took an intro to poetry class. I love the Penguin poetry collections because they're floppy. Ooh, that's a trigger. That's a nice noise. Anyways, I did an intro to poetry course, so the only really classical poet that I've ever really read was Sylvia Plath. So I was like, I need to get to know somebody as a reference point who's a little bit more classical, and I love I hadn't really read much nature poetry and stuff, so I thought that would be an interesting section to try. Wordsworth obviously is, you know, without him, contemporary and modern day poetry itself would not, he changed the format, him, and I studied Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and the name of the guy who wrote that is just not coming to me. That I'll stop filming and his name will come to me, but right now that's not happening. I don't know. But if it wasn't for him, how we write poetry these days wouldn't be the same. So what else is there to say? He's a classic for a reason. Some of the most, just, Lucy Gray is one I love. I haven't actually read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I have watched the film. The Hunger Games is on my list. I need to do it. I have watched the film, but I refuse to watch the rest of them until I've read the books, and I don't want to do it not in order. I think that's gonna have to be book copies I borrow from my mum at some point. I could have done this summer, but been in a slump. So that was technically the first book I read, but there we go. The next one, now I read, this is the second book in a series, the Darkest Minds series by Alexandra Bracken. I read The Darkest Minds in December. I was home and I didn't bring any books home with me, and all the stuff I have I've read. So So I borrowed it off my mum. I'd been meaning to read it for a while, so this is also something I borrowed from my mum. And I read this during my first month back at uni. This book, the ending to both The Darkest Minds and this book is so tragic, and the way you sort of build to that, like, you just don't see it coming. That's the thing with these books, they have so many little twists that the twist at the end you don't see coming. Alexandria Bracken has a style of writing that has you hooked on everything. Plot, character setting, all of it. You get so invested. Like, she has such a lot, especially the characters. She has a way of getting you so invested and attached to these people, even the ones you're not supposed to like, you get attached to. And I think, as I was saying, I think the specific sort of month and time that I read this book in, I will always have, without going into too much depth into my personal life, because I don't think it really matters, but the point in my life I was at, what was going on in my personal life. I was back at university for like 3 weeks with nothing to do. It was all hanging out with my friends, and messing around, goofing off, just getting to be an 18-year-old first year. So I think it's always gonna be a bit of a special benchmarker. I really do want to read the third one. I have a friend who I talk books with a lot who has highly recommended the rest of the series to me, so when I get my hands on the rest of the series I might ask to borrow it from her at some point. I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna be very excited too, because I have been so hung up over the ending to this book, so we shall see. Speaking of series, I have two that have made me want to read the rest of the series. This is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I am Evangeline Fox. Evangeline Fox is me. In the wheel of overly optimistic, hopeless romantic female main characters, Evangeline Fox is number one. I loved the pure fairy tale ness of this. It reminded me so much of like the stories I used to get told when I was a kid, those like fairy princess stories. It was a more grown-up version of that and I loved it. It was so, and this word is overused in my opinion, but it was whimsical. I do think we overuse that word at the moment for things that aren't really, but this was. And the extensive world that Stephanie Garber has of Caraval, which I haven't read but this book has made me want to read, and Once Upon a Broken Heart, and The Magnificent North, and all these different places. I'm so invested, and again, as soon as I get my hands on the Ballad of is it the Ballad of Never After that comes next? I don't know. Will it tell me? Yeah, it is the Ballad of Never After that comes next. So I'm very excited to get my hands on that book. The next one I liked, but I don't think I'm going to continue with the series, is Alex Astor's Lightlark. I feel like I really enjoyed this one, and I feel like I enjoy it as a standalone. The plot twist at the end I did not see coming. I had a love-hate relationship with the characters because some of them were very surface level, but some of them were really in-depth, which I feel like makes sense because you can't have these really in-depth characters and have your side characters also be like really built up. You just can't do that. But Alex Astor's writing is, I have this problem with Stephanie Garber as well. Some of the metaphors and some of the expressions, I think Stephanie Garber uses a lot of similes and metaphors that sometimes are just a bit cliche and a bit, they sound like they're trying to be creative and descriptive, but it just comes off as a little bit too much. And it's using like a lot of cliche expressions, which, you know, I can look past it for a good plot and a well thought out world building, which both of these books have, so I can put that aside. But if I don't like a writer's writing style, it doesn't really make me want to continue with a series. Stephanie Garber has created I find with Stephanie's writing style, it can be a bit charming. It can kind of add to the fairy tale-ness of it all, the sort of childhood elements of her stories. When it comes to Alex Esther, I feel like her story has the potential to be something a lot darker, and because of that style, she's just not bridging the gap. I don't know how to explain it. I did enjoy Lightlark, it was good. I enjoyed the plot, I liked the characters. It was just some of her it's not even metaphors, it's just some of her expressions but it could just throw you off and take you out of it, especially with like fantasy. You want to be immersed. It's escapism in its purest form. Having things like that does kind of break you out of it, and it breaks the spell a bit. But it was a good book. Don't get me wrong, I would recommend it. I think it's more of just a personal thing, you know. The next one I read has a lot more to do with my course, so you can see where I highlighted things. I did actually reference this in my coursework, and this is In Writing by Hattie Crystal. Not Crystal, Crystal. This book is, it's compiled of all these different interviews that Hattie, who has a podcast called In Writing, it's compiled all these interviews she had with different writers, so poets, novelists, journalists, essayists, all these different types of writers, about the creative process behind writing, about why they write, about how they find inspiration, all these different things. It was so interesting to hear all of these different pieces of advice and perspectives, sometimes that contradicted each other in this book, from all kinds of different writers. I think that I'm an aspiring writer myself. If you're new to this channel, you might not know. My biggest dream, my biggest goal in life is to be published. I write poetry, novels. If I can finish one day instead of jumping from one idea to the next, maybe, but my poetry is the closest thing to my heart. It's what I want to be published the most. To see my poetry in like a book is like, my degree is in creative writing. It's my main goal in life. It's what drives me. I'm a writer at my heart, so reading something like this that did give me ideas into my process and my craft was incredibly interesting and helpful. So this was definitely something that interested me and helped me with my coursework, so I will take that. So that was good. And of course, how could I not mention Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros? Of course, I will do a separate video talking about this to wrap up my Empyrean series thing. Am I gonna read the Threshing Day book? I'm gonna see if I can convince my mum's probably watching this. I'm gonna see if I can convince her to go halves with it, or I might just ask for it for Christmas and read it then. I'm not too fussed about it because it doesn't really add anything to the plot, and I know if Liam has like a Threshing Day story in that, I'm gonna be absolutely devastated by it, and I don't know if I'm like mentally stable enough for that. But anyways, the ending to every single installment in the Empyrean series has made me cry at some points. This one is no different. Twice. I was warned about the ending, and still, I got to the last page. I was trying to find more. I was like trying to peel the page, seeing if I'd missed something. I could not believe that, and that's all I'm gonna say. And I can't wait till the 4th book. Yarros, please save me. Also, I did get the paper copy. This is so stupid, but I like having all my copies of a series being the same height. So I gave my hardback copy to my mum, and I got this one. The next book I read is, I'm so obsessed with this absolute childhood classic. I remember my mum sitting me down and like showing me this film from her childhood, that be The Last Unicorn. I didn't know it was a book until early this year, and I wanted to read it so bad, and then me and my mum found it in a bookshop in Hay, and oh my god, it was very similar to the movie, which is, for a children's story, it's so touching emotionally. Like, Amalthea as a character has this whole it's a children's book and a children's film, and the unicorn's having an existential crisis reflecting on mortality and belonging and femininity. And there's a really great essay on it by video essay on it, which I would highly recommend, by Final Girls Studio. Love her channel, but I can't remember what the essay's called, but it's on her channel. She did an amazing video essay on The Last Unicorn, would highly recommend. I love the cover as well, by the way. It's so pretty. It's pretty much identical to the movie, except the ending is a bit different without spoiling anything. But the mix of something so existential and so, again, I hate to use this word because it's so overused, but whimsical. The mix of this magical fairy tale with this existential reflection, it kind of softens it and it makes it such a nice read. It was like a cozy read that leaves you thinking, mortality is an interesting concept. But I loved it, and it has a very special place in my heart, and I love Amalthea. I love that girl. She's so, like, that unicorn. So these next 3 books are something that I have wanted to read since I started university, and my best friend recommended them to me. It's something very, very different from the rest of these because it's a manga, which, if anyone watching this doesn't know what it is, that is a Japanese comic. It's Nana by, excuse me if I pronounce this wrong, Aizawa. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But it's Nana. Nana is about these 2 girls. Both of their names are Nana, and they both moved to Tokyo. One's in a rock band. Her boyfriend's left her to go and pursue another band. She wants to move to Tokyo and restart her band and, like, see if she can make it big. The other one's also following her boyfriend, but she wants to find some level of independence in Tokyo. She wants to stay with him, but she also wants to live on her own and make her own money. So they end up splitting an apartment between them and becoming really close friends, and it's sort of, the series traverses their heartbreaks and all their drama and their relationship and their friendship, and it's this story about female friendship and love and all this different stuff, and it's so good. It's so good. It's so, especially with the age I'm at, a lot of the themes are so relatable. The friendship between the second Nana's referred to as Hachi in the series. So the friendship between Nana and Hachi is, like, there's so much that reminds me of my life at this age. And I have this really, really cool 25th anniversary copy as well, which I did something stupid, right? I thought this was just the first volume, so I went out and I got volume 2 because I was tearing through this at the speed of light, so I thought I would be better at volume 2. I load it onto my Goodreads and it says 1 through 2, so I match up the last pages and realise I didn't need to get this because this has 1 and 2, not just 1. But I only read the first volume in here, and then I read this one anyway because I was like, I've bought it now, I'm gonna read it. But the artwork, wait to a random page, just look at that. The artwork is incredible. I'll see if I can. Like, it's so beautiful, and the story, like, anybody who says that, like, manga and what's the name? That is completely slipped my mind. Comics aren't, like, that graphic novels aren't real novels are so wrong. You can have just as much plot and character depth in more visual storytelling. You absolutely can, and there is just as much artistry that goes into it. and I feel like this is, and I'm gonna go out and get the 4th volume to read on my flight as well, and I'm probably gonna have to borrow the rest from my friends because there's like over 27 volumes. I'm gonna be at this for a while, but I love that about it too. I love that it just keeps going. I love it. There's so much to get into, and I'm so excited talking about it because it's something quite new in my life. That I think for where I'm at in my life, I'm 19, soon to go into my 2nd year of university. I'm in that sort of half adult, half not adult stage that, especially the character Hachi, she's just like me. She's just like me. I am Hachi, Hachi is me. So I think having a piece of media to obsess over that has so much like relevance to my life, I take a lot of comfort in that. I think that's why I read a lot, is relatability's sake and escapism's sake. But I love these. These are great. Highly recommend. Something a bit different to what I've read before, but I love it. I love it. So then I have, now I've read this series in the wrong order technically, but it's one of those series that like jumps around, so you don't kind of need to read it in any specific order. But it's Game On by Navessa Allen. I'm not going to talk too much about these books because if you know, you know. But Lights Out, I really, really enjoyed. I thought that book was so funny. It was for something that for something that's classified as dark romance and deals with like heavy topics. Navessa Allen has this writing style that can just make you giggle, like out loud giggling. And I love that. It's such a fun read. This one was quite different though because it was so much darker. And I think this really showed a sort of flexibility in Navessa Allen's writing, to have this one really light, funny book followed by something that's much darker and has a much more gripping plot. So I really thought that was impressive. I was very impressed by this. And then I'm reading at the moment a bit of a classic. I'm reading Stephenie Meyer's Twilight. Look at this really cool copy. This is a 20th anniversary edition. I got it really cheap in the works on sale for like, I think it was £3. £3 for sprayed edges. I like that. So I'm not too far into it. I'm about 100 pages in. A little bit slow to start with, but I have a feeling it's going to be one of those where you kind of need to stick with it, and then once it picks up, it picks up. Very much mixed reviews, but it's a classic. Not like a classic, but you know what I mean. So I thought I'm gonna have to give it a go. So that's all so far. So I'm very happy to be back making bookish videos, and I will see you all in the next one.